Hey guys, I'm Buck Weezer. We're putting the do in a do-it-yourself road trip. I'm in Big Red, and I got my wife and my 2 daughters with me. And guess what we're doing today? We're going to pick up a tractor. Yup, another tractor is given to me. It's a couple hours drive, but I think it's going to be worth it. It's a Wheel Horse 416-8. And I saw one photo of it, and I'm pretty excited about it. So the 416 means it got a 16 horsepower engine. I don't know if it's a Kohler or Onan. And the -8 means it's an 8 speed. It's a manual transmission. So you got 3 forward and 1 reverse in low, 3 forward and 1 reverse in high. So that makes 8. I don't know what the 4 means. 4 wheels. So I'm pretty excited about it, and I was told it doesn't start, so that'll probably be my first project once we have it in our possession. So thanks for joining me. Here we go. All right, so we've made it to the farm, and there's our Wheel Horse 416-8. Looks pretty good. I love those ag tires on the back and the chains. And I was told, I'm not entirely sure what it means, that they're calcium filled. So that could be a bonus, especially in the wintertime. And I'm gonna have to put down the back of Big Red and get the ramps out and see if we can get this beast up there. Can't drive it up because it's not running right now, but we'll get to the bottom of that. Absolutely. But it looks great. I know I'll have a good time with that. Small transmission leak that we'll have to investigate. But 1 drip overnight's not a big deal. We just have to make sure we keep it filled and top it off. All right. Guess it's time to load it up.
Try once, see where we get, and then if we're like, yeah.
All right,
Let's
so
just not get to the point of no return.
That's my concern, that we're trying to get it halfway up there. We do have a great
International harvester.
latch onto. I don't think we're going to have any trouble.
Well, so the only difference what he was saying is that these wheels are full, whereas mine aren't. But
right.
But yeah,
So that makes it heavier.
but mine's bigger.
Do you want to get William? I mean, he is beastly. All right.
All right, let's give it our best shot.
William, why don't you get this here? I got the lever. You know what?
Keep going.
Keep going, you guys. Sorry, we had William.
All right, it's in gear and it's up. Awesome.
Keep going, keep going.
All right, so we are home again. Unloaded the Wheel Horse 416-8, and need to see if we can get it started. One of the things I noticed, I don't know if you can see that, elapsed time, the hour meter reached 2,278 hours. You know what that tells me? That tells me that this is old faithful. This is old reliable. This has been around the block a few times and has done a lot of work in its life. And that makes me feel pretty good. You think you're going to get that kind of hours out of a tractor you might buy at the Home Depot or Lowe's? I don't think so. That's pretty impressive. Well, we got to get it started, and we've got a new battery. The date on this battery is April of this year, so it hasn't been that long since it was replaced. And also, a new starter solenoid was installed. And I don't expect that either of those are going to be the culprit in our no start, no crank situation. But just because it's new doesn't mean it's good. Let's see what we can figure out here. Let's start by using the multimeter to read battery voltage. I don't know if you can see that, 12.53. So that's a pretty good battery. I don't think that's going to be the issue. Next, I want to run some tests on that solenoid and use the multimeter. Maybe just grab a test light. So this is a four-post solenoid. So we get battery positive directly to this terminal, and on the other terminal, a short jumper goes over to the starter. Down below, which you probably can't see, I don't know what you can see. Down below, we've got this red wire is the positive, 12-volt positive coming from the key switch. And when that's energized, creates the bridge between these two main lugs, and our engine will crank. And then on the other side, we have the ground wire for to ground the solenoid. Sometimes they just get it ground by being bolted to the tractor. This one actually has the ground wire, but it's just, again, just a short jumper right to here, bolted to the tractor frame. So let's start by checking that ground. Put our test light on battery positive. It lights up. Now let's see if we got ground down here on that post. That should light up. All right, indeed it does. So the ground to the solenoid is good. Now let's just check what should be clearly. I moved my test light to battery negative, so touching here, we should light up with battery positive. Should not light up here until such a time as the solenoid is energized. And we should not get anything here until such a time as the key switch is turned to start. And of course we don't. I might need to get a helper, and we'll test those other aspects of the solenoid. Get somebody to sit on the seat and turn the key for us. Alright, actually I think I can do this by myself. I set the parking brake and locked it in. I can press this clutch pedal by myself with this foot and turn the key with my other hand. Our test light is connected to battery negative. So when we turn the key, the test light should light up here if we're getting 12 volts from the key switch. And of course we're not. We're not getting anything. So therein lies our problem. So what shall we try next? I think what I want to do is use a jumper wire, and let's see, I want to use a jumper wire and bypass the key switch entirely. We'll take a jumper wire from the battery positive and connect it down here, and the engine should crank. Let me find that wire. So this will verify that our battery's good, it'll verify that our solenoid is good, and that our starter is good if this indeed cranks. It won't start because the key switch is still in the off position, so our ignition system is grounded. So it should crank, but it won't start. So our transmission's in neutral, brake pedal set. Let me apply 12 volts here, and we should be hearing it crank. All right, so that worked brilliantly. So that verifies that our starter's good, our battery's good, our solenoid is good, and we've confirmed that our problem is somewhere in this circuitry here, coming from the key switch to the solenoid when the key is turned to the start position. So somewhere in there is our problem. It would be good to look at a wiring diagram, because there's the safety interlock system that's part of that circuitry, the safety switches, that is, the key switch, this fuse here. So we got to trace it out, but somewhere in there we're gonna find our problem. So let me see if I could dig up a wiring diagram and see what we can learn from that. Alright, so I found a wiring diagram online for the 416 model from Toro, from Wheelhorse, and I want to try to trace out battery positive for the starting system. I don't need to trace out battery negative because the starter and starting system is grounded by virtue of the tractor frame being connected to battery negative. So we're just talking about the positive, and hopefully this is telling us how it's supposed to be. Who knows if anything else has changed over the years or things have been tweaked. But so let me just show you what I observe. So we have, and I'm using a red crayon to outline it for us here, and hopefully it will make sense. We're getting battery positive to the key switch starting at the solenoid, the big terminal in the solenoid that's connected to battery positive. It makes its way through a 25 amp fuse and then over to the S terminal, no, the B terminal battery on the key switch. Right, so you can see that. So here's our key switch. So we get battery positive on the B terminal of the key switch. And when we turn the key switch to start, we get continuity between the B terminal and the S terminal, battery and start. Alright? So at that point, we're tracing it, and it's telling us tan wire. I don't know if we can trust the colors of these wires at this stage in the game, and that's taking us to two places. First, to the Pto safety switch. So if the PTO is in the disengaged position, we will get continuity through that switch. And I know where that safety switch is, over by the PTO lever. But it's also going, I see, we're sending battery positive down to what's called the oil switch. So let's see if you can see that. To me, that has to be an oil level switch. It can't be an oil pressure switch because you don't get oil pressure until such a time as the engine's running. So it must be an oil level switch, and we could check that for continuity. Also, we should check to make sure we have enough oil. And if that's all good, battery positive then comes to this little relay. I don't know where that relay is. Alright, so then it will energize that relay and allow voltage to pass through to the starter solenoid. But let's back up to the PTO safety switch. If it's disengaged, as it should be to start, battery voltage, battery positive, then flows, it says on a purple wire, to a clutch neutral safety switch. So I don't know if that means the clutch pedal has to be depressed or the transmission must be in neutral, but there's another safety switch right here. And assuming that's in the correct position, battery positive can flow. The oil switch energizes this relay, voltage flows through and goes to the terminal on the battery solenoid, and then over to our starter, assuming everything's good and the engine cranks. So we just verified earlier that the solenoid's good, the battery's good. So somewhere in this circuit that we just outlined, we've got a problem. Is it the clutch neutral safety switch? Is it the PTO safety switch? Is it a broken wire somewhere? Is it this relay? Is it the oil switch? Those are the things we're going to have to try to locate and check. But somewhere in all of this maze, in all of this red maze, we're going to find our problem. Hopefully we'll resolve it and get it running. So let's go back to the tractor. Alright, this probably might be a little hard to see. So let's just try to deal with this one step at a time. So yeah, the top of the engine advertises oil sentry protection. That must be the oil level switch. It's not going to let you start your tractor if you don't have oil in it. By the way, I checked the oil and it's a little low, but it's not bad. It's okay. So this, I don't know if you can see it. Probably you can't. It's hard for me to see it also. This must be the oil switch right down here. And through this sheath here, and it's got 2 wires. They're both red. Basically, if the switch is working properly, when there's oil in there, there should be continuity through the switch, and I can check that with my multimeter, which should beep if we've got continuity. I can just kind of probe down in here. You hear the beep, right? So I think we're good to go. That does not appear to be the problem. All right. Okay, so we saw on the wiring diagram, we're getting battery voltage first through a 25 amp fuse. This is a 20 amp fuse, and to me, we should check it and not just assume that it's good. It does not appear to be blown visually, but that's not really the test that we want to rely on. So let's use that continuity tester with our multimeter. Turn that on. We should get the beep. Should get a beep if it's good. We got continuity through the fuse. Guess what? We don't. Telling me the fuse is blown? It would appear that it is. This 20 amp fuse is no good. Now our diagram called for a 25. Did we put an undersized fuse in it that now is blown? A blown fuse is not generally a diagnosis, it's a symptom of another problem. What might that other problem be? I don't know. I think I'm going to hunt around for another fuse and replace it and see what happens. It may blow again. If so, we'll keep looking for the problem. But I think I should put a new fuse in and see what we get, because this one is clearly blown. Alright, so this is our blown fuse. Down here is another fuse. It also is listed as 20 amps. This would be our accessory fuse according to the wiring diagram we looked at, and it should be a 15 amp fuse. So in neither case do we have the right size fuse. One's too big, one's too small. But let me test it and make sure it's good. And we'll swap out, we'll put this in place of the other one. Alright, so we got continuity through him. So let's put him, oop, I dropped it. That was the bad one I just dropped. Let's put this guy in here. Alright. So, now I guess we can give it a try and see if the engine will crank up. Okay, so I only have 30 amp fuses, and I don't want to use an oversized fuse. So I moved the 20 from the accessory fuse, which is supposed to be a 15, and I put the 20 up here. I'm just going to leave out the fuse for the accessories because that's not integral to the starting system anyway. We'll see if the tractor will run now. Yeah, I'd like to get the right size fuses. Did the 20 amp blow because of a problem or because it was simply undersized for the circuitry? I don't know, but we're going to give it a shot. You know, it's had a lot of life and a lot of living before it ever got to us, so may not know what the full story is, but let's see if we get anything or if we got other problems yet to diagnose. All right. Hey, it's cranking. I mean, don't tell me that the only problem was a blown fuse. because I'm going to want to know why it was blown. Well, since we have the possibility that it might start, let's make sure we got fuel, other things are good and ready to go. We'll see if we can get it fired up. That's very exciting. All right, guys, now that the possibility exists that it might start up, I changed out the spark plug. I topped off the oil since it was a little bit low. Probably due for an oil change, and we'll get to that. I'll put in a new fuel filter. And I added some gasoline to the tank. So I think all that remains is to see if this guy is going to start for us. It hasn't run in a few months. Probably going to cheat by shooting a little starting fluid into the carburetor. Give the fuel pump a chance to do its thing. Alright, so keep your fingers crossed. I think we might have it here. Well, that was the starting fluid. Looks like there's fuel in our filter. We know we got spark. that's pretty nice. Well, over 2,200 hours and she's still got some life left in her. That feels really good to me. I'm really happy to have this tractor. Got more work to do on it. Maybe that'll be the subject of future videos, but came with a 48-inch cutting deck. There's a snowblower attachment also. Feels pretty nice tractor. I mean, I feel like it's a little bit of a letdown that the only thing we had to do was replace a blown fuse. Why did it blow? Because it's undersized. It's supposed to be a 25 instead of a 20. Maybe that's why. Or maybe something shorted somewhere. There's loose wires hanging here and there. Who knows? I'm sure it'll happen again if there's a problem that's still unresolved. But it's up and running, sounds good. I'm very happy about that. I hope you don't feel disappointed that all this was a blown fuse. I was hoping for something a little more exciting than that in our diagnosis, but sometimes it's easy. Either way, I hope you learned something, and I hope you're not so disappointed that you won't go down and leave a comment or a question in the discussion below. I always look forward to interacting with those of you who are kind enough to watch my videos. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on our next video. Bye-bye.